Welcome to the Nancy and Nicole Show, real life, real talk. Today we're talking about authenticity, specifically when your authenticity is challenged.
So
When
good.
I know you show up and you don't quite get the result you want.
Yeah.
So I'm going to let you kick
Yeah.
this one off, Nancy.
We're kind of on a theme around authenticity from
Yeah,
last episode to now. And one of the things that I think authenticity feels so brave until someone doesn't like it.
right.
Like,
Right.
as
When you do
long
something
as
different.
I'm saying I am preaching to the choir, it's so
Yes.
good. But all it takes is somebody to not like it for whatever reason. And sometimes that is, you know, from an online post. And sometimes it's a comment that probably is innocuous, but somehow the tone I hear it in feels a little like knife to the chest. But also, I think we can be sensitive around when we are with family or friends, loved ones in general. And it's not that they necessarily directly zing you with some level of judgment, but it's almost the just lack of love and support that feels extra judgy that then makes it, I think for me anyways, makes me then a little bit hesitant the next
Uh-huh.
time about showing up in my true self because I'm like, I didn't go so well the last time with these people.
Right. Yeah.
So before we jump in a little bit further, I just want to reference a thinker that I think gives some framework here for this. So there's a gal, Nicole, I know you've heard me talk about Caroline McHugh, who
Hmm.
talks about the four versions of ourselves. I think this is a good framework to give. So the four versions of ourselves are who other people think you are. Number two is who you want other people to think you are,
Hmm.
different version. The third is who you think you are. And then the fourth is, I love this, your unchanging self. And when she talks about
Hmm.
that, I think it's easy to go, wait a minute, I change, I grow, I evolve. So it's less about a stagnant version of you as much as the foundational unchanging you, that through line that stays as a core regardless of chapter or season in your life. And I think when we're talking about authenticity, it's really helpful, especially when we're talking about the times where it feels challenged,
Hmm.
where when we think we're coming from that place of our unchanging self, and that bumps up against what other people think of us, what we think other people think of us, or even what, all of those other versions of ourselves.
Hmm.
And I think it has such a correlation to our nervous system and sort of just how we breathe into a moment or a conversation or a role in our lives. So that's sort of why when we were talking about this topic of when our authenticity is challenged, like there's so many little micro moments
Hmm.
of that I think are bigger than the big obvious, you have some hater online who goes nuts about you. I don't think it's those moments because those are easier, I think. I mean, they're not easy when they happen, having gotten some of those.
But you're right. It's that
Yeah.
you have a point there. There's something about when somebody verbalizes it, like, I totally disagree with you. It's easier, at least for me, to go, okay, well, that's fine. Like, you disagree with me. You do you, dude, or dudette, whatever person. Like, great. You said you don't agree with me. That's fine. But it's the nothingness
Yeah.
when you put something out there that feels vulnerable or you went a little deeper, you shared a little more and nobody says anything, whether it's online or with a friendship or a relationship, you say something and you put it
Mm,
out there and it's crickets. That's to me, that is affects me more
yeah.
than somebody coming straight out and going, I completely think you're full of it. Cause
Yeah.
then I just think, well, that's fine. You have your
Yeah.
own experience. That's cool. But
And those moments where, I mean, we've talked about like the power of having those people, like your people that you can say anything to, will always have your back. But the majority of people don't fall into that category. They are
right.
somewhere between acquaintance and that.
Hmm.
And I have had that experience so many times where I really like I'm enjoying being connected to this person. We're sort of getting to know each other, and I will share something that feels a little more vulnerable, a little more like just in that world of like I'm hoping we deepen our
Mm.
friendship, and they like respond with like something about the weather, what about those Mariners or whatever, and you're just like you just took this
You put
step,
yourself out
you
there.
put yourself out there, and they're not being judgmental of you, they're
No.
not anything, but it's not met. And I think that is a form of sort of challenging our what feels like having our authenticity challenged. So I just think there are all those ways that when we are vulnerable with another person, that you can make up all sorts of stories about how that engagement goes, especially if you feel like you've just sort of taken a risk with them and it doesn't feel like it's met. I just want to caution everybody about don't assume that it means anything
Right.
other than maybe they just aren't as quick on their feet to share something back. I happen to live with people who take a little bit more time to respond in a moment than I do. And it has been a learned thing for us over the years to figure out like how do I not take things personally when it's like just because I'm like yapping all the time about stuff.
I know for me, if somebody says something thought provoking to me, it often does take me a little bit to come back around because I don't want to respond in a flippant way.
Mm,
But sometimes I do also realize that space without specifically saying, "Hey, that was really thought provoking. Give me a minute and I'll
eh,
get back to you." That space can feel really uncomfortable to the other person, and I've had it happen yeah, to
sure.
me, like you said, I think I've poured my heart out or said something really vulnerable or thought provoking all the things, and it's met with not a lot.
Yeah. And what's interesting is I think when we circle back around with people and say, hey, I was thinking about that conversation we were having the other day, and I wanted to remember to say, like, that is like gold to me
For
because
sure.
it like does all of the neurochemical bonding. I don't know if it's serotonin, dopamine, whatever those things, the
All
good
the things.
chemicals, all that happen. Like, I just think that quality of connection is so powerful in supporting, um, how we show up in the world. I wanna shift a little bit to thinking about how it sort of shows up from a workplace for us. There are times when people don't hire you. I feel like you have this great initial consultation. I feel like we just had this whole little love fest. It's a perfect match. And I'm always very careful in those meetings to not assume. Like when you make your decision about who you want to hire, let me know. If you have any questions after this, or if you, after you meet with other people, whatever. And then they call and say, either, well, actually, the worst is when they don't call and they just ghost you. And you're like, oh my God, I just thought we had this like meaningful first date and I got nothing. Or even still, when they call back and say, no, I'm not going to hire you. And I think actually the thing that stings for me is that I misread it.
Yes.
Like, there are times I walk away from a meeting, I'm like, I don't think they really want to work with me. And I'm not really sure I think it's a great fit either. And that's fine. But I
Right.
think that's true of any new relationship. Like, you're at a party or an event or whatever, and you connect with somebody and I have a new friend, like somebody who will be a new friend. And then, yeah, never hear from them again. Or they're really super businessy. And I was like, oh, I wasn't I thought this was gonna be something different. So I think for me, some of that twinge of when I feel like the authenticity is challenged is less like a in my face, like, "You're a jerk, I don't like you," as much as sometimes I feel stupid because I misread the moment. I misread the connection.
Yeah, it's
That
like your
makes sense?
radar's off or yeah,
Yeah,
like your intuition, your radar's off or yeah, I totally get it.
yeah, interesting. stuff. So, can you think of times for you when there's some miss, whether it's, I'm sure nobody ever unsubscribes from your newsletter because it's really good.
It happens every week.
Really?
Yeah,
Every
there's always
week?
somebody. Yeah,
No
there's always
way.
somebody that
Bullets.
although I have to admit, I do unsubscribe from sometimes other I just respect everybody manages their inbox in their own way. I think
Absolutely.
it's more about that sometimes than the actual content of a newsletter.
Totally. Yeah, I would agree. Have you had the experience of having a talk not land the way you had hoped it would? And if so, how'd you navigate that?
Yeah. No, of course the answer is yes.
Well, I don't want to make assumptions. You're pretty
Yes.
amazing.
Well, thank you. But some days I think I'm more on my game than others, and
Sure.
sometimes I think my message lands more than others.
Yeah.
So, 100%. I have done talks or presentations or talk classes and felt like it didn't connect. It didn't land. And it could
Yeah.
be a million different reasons. And maybe I didn't articulate it as well.
Mm.
In my head, it's crystal clear. Sometimes the words that come out, not so crystal clear. Again, I talk about energy and mindset as it relates to business. Some people are super into that and they believe in that and they acknowledge it. And there's other people for whom that's just weird and they're not like, why am I here? So I think there's a million different reasons
Mm.
why it might not land. But yeah, there's the intellectual part of me that can pick myself back up and like, well, let's do a little like evaluation and see what it's all about. And where did things go right? Where could you do better? Maybe not wrong, but better. But yeah,
Mm.
sometimes it's really kind of like, all right, I'm just going to drive home by myself and just kind of pretend that didn't happen and go about my day. So yeah, it's different
Yeah.
and sometimes people are open to hearing, especially when it comes to teaching my classes and doing coaching. Sometimes people are open to hearing what I have to say and sometimes they're just not.
Yeah.
And I have to respect that for them, but also not make it mean something about me. And some days that's easier to do than others.
Yeah. One of the themes that I'm kind of hearing through our conversation is recognizing that we do not, in any given moment, actually know what is going on with another human being.
We don't even, I mean, it could be like your kids, your spouse, right? In theory, you're supposed to know, but you just don't.
Yeah.
Um, but man, we sure like to attach meaning to it and think we know.
Yeah. Well, and I think the stakes feel higher when we are intentionally practicing showing up more authentically as that
Yeah.
unchanging self. And it's hard to align with your authentic self and not be embracing vulnerability at the same time. And if you are being vulnerable and for whatever reason, you are feeling like you're getting something back from your audience or your friend, whoever you're in communication or in relationship with, doesn't feel like that's matched,
Hmm.
it can feel like it's off, it didn't land, they don't like me, they don't agree with me. And that vulnerability just ratchets up, in my opinion,
Hmm.
the risk of us reading way more into a situation
Oh, for sure.
than is probably true. But we don't usually go back either because we're vulnerable and feel scared and now feel sort of threatened in the moment potentially. Chances are we're not going to be more vulnerable by saying, "Hey, I just want to check in with you." Like, what did
Could
you
you
mean when
validate
you
me,
said
please?
that? What did you mean when I just poured my soul out to you and you like said pass the salt? And
Right.
didn't reference anything I just said. How about for you when you're in those moments of sort of trying to decide how you're going to show up or not?
It's hard. I struggle with it. And sometimes I end the like, here's my thing. Can you pass the salt? Um,
If you can ask to pass the salt before they do, I think that, you know, cuts
right.
off some of the awkwardness.
To see what happens.
Yeah.
But they're usually, and I'd love to get to the point where I'm better at just saying it earlier in the process. But right now, depending on what it is, have to get to a point where it's like, okay, it's so uncomfortable to not say something
Hmm.
that I got to do it. And I have to be willing, while I always have good intentions, I want it to land well. I have to be willing to let it not come out okay.
Yeah.
Right. Because when I'm saying something vulnerable or true for me that I'm not sure how it's going to land with the other person,
Yeah.
Then I go through all my different versions of like, how can I say it nice? How can I like couch it this way or modify
Mm.
it that way? And sometimes I just got to get to the bleh part of this is my truth or this is my thing. And then you got to wait and see what happens.
I'm also struck as we're having this conversation is that when you find yourself unmet, like I know we sort of talked about when authenticity is challenged, and I'm not sure challenge is actually the word I would use, but maybe not met, is that it is easy sometimes to respond from sort of a, well, screw you,
Hmm.
or defensively, I don't care. And on my more mature moments, I like to be able to stay in that space of, yeah, that kind of hurts. And I'm still going to show up anyway. I'm going to
That is the
stay
goal.
present anyway. And I think a filter is a sign of maturity sometimes and wisdom. But I am so struck by how nuanced all of that is in how we
Mhm.
show up,
Yeah. And it varies day by day, case by case.
conversation by conversation.
The courage and the bravery to know what to do.
You asked earlier, how do you do that in that moment?
Mhm.
And I think you and I both share some practices around tuning into our bodies,
Yeah, much
whether
so.
that is like some deep breathing. You
Yeah.
can do some checking in with yourself about how am I feeling regulated in my nervous system right now or not?
Yeah. It's important.
Because I think it's really easy to get in your head, and then there's a lot of stories and all that kind of stuff. What would you want to leave somebody with from this conversation today?
That true authenticity is hard
Mm,
and it's scary sometimes, no matter how many times you do it. And for you and I, we both put a lot out on social media. So I think it's easy for people to make assumptions that it doesn't matter to us. We can show up no matter what, blah, 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 all the things like whatever. It's still scary. It's still, and sometimes it sneaks up on me at least. I'm like, man, that one really got me. That if something was difficult to say or something happens and I'm like, ooh, that that hurt me a little bit. And that's part of life. And it's being brave enough to keep showing up and to know that if you're struggling with it, you're not alone.
mm,
That's actually very normal, but to keep doing it in your own way. And whatever is right for you today is all that matters
mm.
because your version of vulnerability, of authenticity, and your level of courage will vary from day to day and to be okay with that.
Yeah. I would even say moment to moment.
Mhm. For
Like
sure.
I can start out in a conversation rock solid,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden I don't feel so rock solid.
And by the end, you're like, hey, can you pass the salt?
Yeah, exactly. Next time we go out to lunch and I say pass the salt, you're gonna go, was it something I said?
I know. So sorry.
I'm sorry, whatever it was. I think I would want to leave people with, especially since the theme of our podcast is the stories we make up
Mhm.
and tell ourselves, is that 99.9% of the time, the story you just made up about this other person probably has nothing to do with you. However, they responded, whether
Mhm.
it was an unscribing of a newsletter or a comment they put on social media or how they respond in conversation with you or not, it's about them.
Yes. And you may never know what that is.
Yeah. And even if they make it be about you, I mean, God knows I have gotten a lot of very direct feedback in my life about how I should be a different person. A lot of it. Nothing subtle about it. And you know what? It still wasn't about me.
No,
It was
it's
really
not.
about their
They're
own
uncomfortable.
lives and ability to show up and comfort zone. And sometimes people are not very comfortable with other people who are comfortable showing up, and you're not alone at
Exactly.
all. You're good company, people. That's why you're here with us for another episode with Nancy and Nicole.
Yay. Thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely. And we'll see you on the flip side. Bye.